Second semifinal will be a TvZ. In the top left of Equilibrium, it is Dark. In the top right, it is GuMiHo, who I believe is still teamless, actually. Dark is on DKZ, I think, but GuMiHo left Psystorm a while ago. Didn't make it to Gamers 8, so he wasn't picked up by the Gamers 8 team, basically. It's kind of sad. Unless I missed something. Maybe some team picked him up for WTL and I missed it. But anywho, GuMiHo, one of the most likely players to experiment with the patch when it comes to Koreans. Didn't really do a whole lot of that in his TvT. We'll see if TvZ is any different. It's certainly possible that for TvT, he didn't really give a lot of thought to how it would change because, you know, the Cyclone's still very questionable as to their place in that matchup. The subject of like a battle cruiser rush being more effective is not something you'd worry about for pros. The Raven is huge if you were to straight up not know that there's an upgrade for the interference matrix, but then GuMiHo didn't seem to need it anyway. So GuMiHo might have been totally aware of everything that changed in TvT and then just went, you know, I don't even care. Like, it's not even how I want to play the game right now. That's fine. But for TvZ, again, this is like one of the most talked about changed matchups. And GuMiHo is one of the more experimental players in the matchup who you would think, jump at the chance to do more mech, you know, battle mech in particular. But we'll see. Even if he doesn't, if he plays a very straight up bio style, we do have to talk about the Baneling health nerf. This is where we're going to talk about a lot more of the patch, you know, non-mirror matchup, obviously. Got 1 Rex expand from GuMiHo. He does seem to be one of the Terrans who's not super favorable to that forward 2 Rex meta. The other guys seem to be doing it almost all the time. So, yeah, to quickly, well, somewhat quickly try and go over what the changes would be here. We do have Banelings being a real concern. Centrifugal Hooks is now a cheaper upgrade, but it no longer gives you the additional health bonus that it once did, which helped, you know, connect a couple of more Banelings to a few more Marines. That has not been thoroughly tested in its dynamic, as far as I know. And because no one communicates anything, I can't be faulted for not knowing. But as far as I know, as far as the rumors go, as far as what we've seen publicly, there's been no real testing on what the dynamic of Bio versus Baneling is right now. So many people are paying so much more attention to the Cyclone and the possibility of mech that even though that was also not tested, really, it is overshadowed any potential other problem that could exist. So that's very interesting. The council did at least acknowledge that the change of the Baneling could affect 2 base all-ins from a Terran, but I'm not sure that that's what they did to try and compensate for that is enough. Which is to make centrifugal hooks cheaper. I don't know, man. I don't know. It also has an 8-second faster research time. I knew there was another thing that they did, but that's... I don't know, man. I don't know. IDK. Any other changes? Well, obviously, Cyclones can be reactor. That's a big change, but it looks like GuMiHo is not going to go for any form of Cyclone harassment. In fact, you're very light on the starting harassments of a Terran player, but then going into a second barracks before 3rd CC makes it faster mid-game aggression. So light form of harassment in the early game, not 6 Hellions, not any Cyclone pressure, but then a medevac to still try and do something. Hellions, maybe just purely defend, and then into a bit faster of a mid-game as he does start up stim before that 3rd CC. Second barracks already over halfway done for the 3rd CC. GuMiHo's medevac drop, just looking for overlords, maybe a queen that's being left alone, something along those lines. We might not be seeing the Baneling dynamic anyway, even though GuMiHo is giving us bio. Dark is more a Roach player, I'd say. Maybe 50-50, actually. I can't quite think of the percentage here, but he plays a lot of Roach. The Hellion just barely enough to brush off the Lings trying to chase the medevac down, which means that the Overlord will bite to dust. Dark has a Roach Warren. Has not made any Roaches. Might even be trying to hide the Roach Warren. Not really. But I guess how often the Hellions get in there. Medevac goes into the main base where it was still seeing no technology reveal. Kills an active creep sim. That's annoying. And, well, screw you, Hellions. Oh! That was just good enough. Wow, okay. GuMiHo cares for every individual member of his team, okay? Little supply block, though. That third CC is not done quite yet. Has to call down supply. He's good at getting tanks, building more barracks production, finally getting to his double upgrades. And the faster stim, faster combat shields, faster two-tank push? Really? The reason I'm questioning it is that it still seems like such a low amount of units to actually move out with this army. And it's a pretty big map, too. I don't know. Well, the main problem is that GuMiHo has no idea that Dark is going into roaches. You know, you could guess because he does it so often, but you don't actually know. So far, you've seen nothing but queens and lings. The tanks are beautiful against roaches, but if he's moving over to widow mines, which it looks like he is doing, that would be a very obvious sign that he does not realize it's roaches. Just out of scan. Just out of scan. Just out of the scan range. Dark's waiting. He needs more roaches to defend, to be fair, so he should be waiting, but and he's not going to get this gold base. No gold base for you. It is funny that there's a gold base with the Rich Vespian Geyser, but as it was pointed out to me, I did immediately catch on to the abusive tank position. So it is a very powerful base if you do get it up and running and you get your creep spread beyond it, but to get it up and running, that's obviously difficult. GuMiHo made sure to go directly towards it. Now he knows about the roaches. He should go back into producing tanks and stop building widow mines. Didn't he see that? Did I not? Was it still at a scan range? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Really? I could. Oh jeez. Oh jeez, Rick. Well, GuMiHo is going to be very careful. He's going to have to pick up pretty quickly now that the roach numbers are high enough. My worry now is that even as he picks up his army, great, 2 medevacs enough to carry most of this, he's going to be rushing back home to drop them unsieged in the midst of a 1-1 roach attack. Nah, GuMiHo doesn't know. GuMiHo does not know. GuMiHo! Gumi, no! If you get surprised by Dark going roaches, that's on you, right? Did he hear it? He's building missile turrets? What? Hello? Why? Dark has been experimenting with some tunneling claws, I guess. So has Cyril, actually, but that's his first response? Not building more tanks? I don't know. Dark's got his 1-1 finishing up. He's trying to get maxed out. He's even adding on a cheeky Nidus Worm. GuMiHo gonna try and make do with the fence he's got. He picks up 3 medevacs! What? What? And he unloads them. But, like, that's a very interesting decision. Widow Mines will catch some roaches. There's no Overseer available, so you're going to have to Crucible them down, hopefully before they pop. Didn't exactly work out. GuMiHo, his supply looks okay. There's only a 40 supply difference. And 1-1 bio is still pretty freaking good. But you would easily have 2 more tanks and 4 tanks with the defense that GuMiHo set up. I would have like no problem. Dark catches the 3 medevac drop Marines over to the top side, which were undefended, basically. I mean, they gave it their all to try and combat the Roach Ravager, but it would have been better if they had tanks helping them out. Dark also was not reinforcing entirely on the front lines. His plan was for the Nidus Worm in the main. GuMiHo had nothing scouting that particular location of his base, and now he is forced to split up his army. A very dangerous thing to do against someone who's going to have the capacity to overwhelm you with numbers. Queens on creep can get the transfusing, buy more time in the main base for more reinforcements. Dark has to F2 and actually send them through, however. It looks like the rest of his army was able to escape to the Nidus Worm and into the main base, and now GuMiHo has to respond. His numbers are starting to dwindle, however, and Dark now has instant reinforcements. This is a big problem for GuMiHo. His tanks have not been involved in most of these fights. The bio is getting weaker by the second. The medevacs eventually will run out of juice. Another Nidus Worm on the front lines is a little too much, I would say. And it looks like Dark will have to retreat. But GuMiHo lost 23 SCVs in the process of holding on here. And he still doesn't have, I feel like, that superior of an army. His upgrades are on the way. That's fantastic. 2-2's about to finish up. Medevac count's good. He's adding in Marauders, but I still question the lack of factory units. So not just tanks. Okay, fine, go with Widow Mines, but usually you'd want that second factory on the way. Of course, you want so much chaos in your own main base. You don't be moving over into a more macro setup than 3 base, 42 SCVs. Dark is at 74 drones, 4 bases back at home. He is just moving on into upgraded roaches. I would be shocked not to see an infestation pit, especially now that we have fast fungals in this matchup. But Dark might not know about that. Burrow and Tunneling Claws is on the way. He's gonna get his infestation pit and try and research pathogen glands. Be like, hey, what the hell? But seriously, with Dark's playstyle, the faster fungals are gonna be fabulous for him. They're gonna be fabulous. That's not all of Dark's army, and GuMiHo, I think, would be a fool to think that it was all of it. That's really not a lot. Nidus Worm still held. I still hold actually more units. Dude, Dark needs to get the Nidus Worm unloaded. Or does he? Maybe he doesn't. He's starting to take the engagement despite being out upgraded here. He doesn't have his own carapace. He might just have the numbers without an additional 8 or whatever roaches. And that is actually what has happened. GuMiHo does not manage to anchor his push. And I personally once again blame the lack of tanks, because that was an unideal situation for the defensive Zerg player. Roaches elsewhere, no +2 armor, the army sieged up, but just not that many siege units, and Dark still took the engagement. Less than ideal. Dark Tunneling Claws will finish soon, and that will be a graphical reveal, but GuMiHo is not going to be able to see it before those roaches burrow under. You can see the roaches move. It's actually obvious if you're looking for it, but if you don't look for it, then they're going to just bypass you and get into the third base. Probably into the third main and natural, as long as Dark realizes that he's not scouted. The missile turret was built, though, and it actually survived the initial encounter, so I guess just going to use the roaches as is. Get a couple of reinforcements, maybe cancel the 4th command center. Yep, that'll be good enough, but this is all about buying time, really. As long as these roaches do any amount of modest buying time and any amounts of damage done, they're pretty much a success. Dark's not going to have a problem reinforcing with roaches if he needs to. He is going to be out of position to this triple drop into the main base, lose a queen, couple of drones, but not much more, as he does quickly respond. And those roaches were buying time, they were distracting, and they pulled the rest of the army home. So that's all Dark has to think of, which means he's even able to calmly split his army in anticipation of the load-unload shenanigans from the Terran player. Infestors are on the way. He did not try to get pathogen glands from what I can see. He knows he's immediately going to have a fungal. Now, it's a less effective fungal. It's got less range, right? And it's also got less damage, so it's not going to pop the Marines in 2 fungals, but it is still instant. Really helping to bridge the gap of someone who has done a 1-1 roach all-in, although that was hardly an all-in. I think it was effective enough, certainly, to play out a macro game. But now the fungals will be even faster. And there the fungals are. You wombo combo with the Corrosive Biles. Bob's your uncle. A magical game is underway. Dark is 80 supply ahead. And still doing some harassment as well. Yeah, not big numbers coming through with those roaches, but the distraction, the scan, the reinforcements being caught up back at home, all good things for Dark's harassment. GuMiHo finally restarting his 4th command center after the cancel a minute or 2 ago. GuMiHo's army is quite fearsome still. Don't underestimate the power of his army just because the supply is in the gutter. It's 3-2 upgrades with +3 armor about to finish. Medivac still at a fairly healthy count. Dark could screw up an engagement if he got overzealous, but it looks like Dark is very content on surviving, getting into a 5th base, perfecting his army, getting additional upgrades. So there's the centrifugal hooks. Again, it's cheaper by 50/50. It's faster by 8 seconds, but the banelings themselves have less health. And the hive will be giving access to Dark to Vipers, which technically have a change. Hardly worth mentioning. The Lurkers seem to be a target of Dark's late game technology, and the Lurker did have a change. They got the burrow speed upgrade to be cheaper, but then the burrow speed upgrade doesn't give them their speed bonus. If you didn't know that that's what they did, then there you go. It doesn't just make them speed burrow, it also boosts their overall speed, or used to. Now it does not. Personally, I don't think that's enough of a trade-off. I say that the Lurkers are still oddly mobile for a siege unit, but it's a start. A couple of roaches may be able to take out a tank. Again, great stuff from Dark's counterattacks. GuMiHo able to squeeze out a maxed out Terran army off of 3 base economy for the entire game, really. Finally moving on to a 4th, and that'll be a breath of fresh air as he drops all of his mules. Dealing with further harassment, seemingly okay, but now he is about to be attacked, and this is a new mix to GuMiHo's defense. He's only been harassing and getting harassed. Now we have one of the major battles possibly on the way. With tank numbers up to 6, that's much better. It's going to be hard to get those perfect fungals. But Dark is still looking to do something. I mean, this is going through a choke, though. Why would you force this? No. That's not what you want. I suppose he was hoping he'd be able to bypass the bridge in time to get corrosive biles on the tanks, but that was... No, that's not going to happen. Don't think so. Good response there from Dark. He's taking the top base, which I guess is another reason why he wants to... He wants to engage so that he is not engaged upon, I suppose, best way to put it, right? You want to stop the tanks and the Liberators from sieging up on your base. And one of the best ways to do that is to take the fight to them first and foremost, if you can. That's the problem, though. I don't think Dark actually can. The fungals are great at stopping momentum, but they're not necessarily what's going to be the damage needed to take the fights. That is a different issue. Vipers are also out, but one already sniped. Liberators siege up. Couple of corrosive biles take care of one, but not the other. More corrosive biles on top of a tank here. It's mostly about the bio. GuMiHo's upgraded bio units looking very powerful indeed, but hesitant to jump into fungals and lurker spines at this point. The lurkers do have their speed burrow, but not their range, which actually usually comes in first. However, they're still doing the job. The lurkers not being touched as of yet to rip through much of the bio indeed. Dark also starting to dwindle on the number of units he has out and about. The reinforcements are on the way, but 26 Hydras coming out from every single hatchery into the awaiting arms of a bio player might not be good enough, or maybe it will. A Blinding Cloud took out a tank. Another Abduct came through to actually kill it. GuMiHo's supply way farther down, and it looks like Dark will be able to consolidate the Hydra reinforcements enough to push this back and win the game. Got a little sketch right there, but Dark able to hold on and win game number 1, as it was kind of foretold. He was in the driver's seat for much of that game. And GG's. Didn't really see a lot of highlights of the patch, I would say. The Banelings never really made an appearance, did they? Despite the Baneling not getting the upgrade. Hydras also have a difference. Their upgrades are cheaper and faster, I believe is the thing. So there's been some concern about the Hydra upgrade timings and power, but I don't think that was really impacting that particular game. And then, oh, the armor upgrades of the Evolution Chamber were cheaper too, actually. Yeah. Gotta mention that one. And that was kind of it. Indeed. We didn't see any Overlord shenanigans or Spire shenanigans. Yep. All right. Pretty fun TvZ overall. Just want to, kind of make sure we're keeping note of what the patch could or could not be changing. But in that game, not so much. So let's move on to game 2. Game number 2 is going to be on Alcyone. The top right, it is Dark. In the bottom left, we have GuMiHo. Thanks, Google. Google pronunciation. Appreciate it. Alcyone. I'm not going to remember that. All the casters are going to be saying a bunch of different stuff, and everyone's going to get mad at us again. People reporting oddities of the patch. You're better off assuming that whatever oddity you've seen is indeed a bug. Just kind of a blanket statement for when he comes in. I'll try to point out if bugs affect the game, as far as I know of the bugs, but... Like, I don't know exactly what map had the Reaper hop up that's broken. Like, not this map, because I can kind of visualize the GIF that I saw, but there's a map that has a broken Reaper cliff, where the Reaper just magically goes from here to here. There's, like, no animation. It just goes, boop, like a teleport. Apparently, rocks are broken on a certain map. And then, yeah, the Cyclone can be bugged if you actually see them. That's all I got so far. Dark did go for fast pool, fast gas. He is getting a hatchery, but the real intent is to go into that Roach Warwin. Now, GuMiHo has decided for game 2 to go into the forward 2-racks, which I said he is less likely to do compared to some of his other Korean pro gamer counterparts. And I think that is true. He does seem to be holding on so the 1-racks expand a little bit more than the likes of course, Beyond, who does this every single time. Or Maru, who's really starting to do it every single time. Or Cure. But, you know, he still does it, obviously. And this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Dark is hoping to find a completely unaware 1-racks expand into defensive, let me wait for my first Reaper, and then, oh shit, roaches. In this case, you've got double the production right off the bat, which is automatically a good thing. And your Reapers, plural, are pretty good at 1, guaranteeing a scout, and 2, buying time with their grenades. So this has actually been proven to be a defensible build against what Dark is doing. You do have to know how, to be fair. There's definitely a chance you mess up the defense. But GuMiHo, should he actually be practicing with this build and, you know, learning and all that good stuff, he should know how to defend against this. So 3 Reapers, again, can buy time. A bunker on the front line, so the Roach Ravager can't even try and kill your production or anything like that. And then you add Marauders. He actually went up to 4 Reapers, that's fair enough, but definitely get the tech lab and at least one of the barracks. Oh no, he is supply blocked. That is a bummer. Okay, only for half a second. Supply depot did finish somewhere, but still. This is not very committed from Dark, to be clear. Something that GuMiHo will eventually figure out as well. He will say, I have dealt with this, and then go into stim and whatnot. The only problem I can see here is that if he does decide to go into stim, the tech lab's a little vulnerable. Also, no SCVs pre-pulled. Could be bad news if this was more dedicated, but it isn't. 1 Reaper went down, still 3 intact, 2 Marines and a Marauder in the bunker, and now a high ground for the overload being moved away. As he also looks to add on another a reactor to the second barracks. Yep, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Dark not able to find much success with his opener, just hurt his own economy in the process. GuMiHo, yeah, he opened up with the second barracks, ended up with the bunker, blah, blah, blah. But really, the magical ability of Terran players to produce both workers and army really favors him here. Dark's gonna have to, well, do the Zerg thing and bust out a bunch of drones before hopefully ever having to bust out more army. But in that process, you would hope to be taking 0 damage. And in fact, he is taking damage. 3 drones go down, possibly a 4th. That's a Reaper hop-up? Jeez Louise. Okay. Alright, whatever. Dark is finishing up speed and grabbing more army, so maybe he's not going to go into the macro game and try and play that particular balancing act. No, he might be going into the follow-up all-in, something that GuMiHo seems very well aware of. The lack of drones, the amount of lings, you know, slow lings on the field, little sus. Definitely erring on the side of caution, because I don't think he knows 100% yet. But he's definitely correct. Tank on the way, second bunker. No salvage in the first, obviously. Third barracks will finish up its production before the attack is incoming. Yep. I do think this is Dark's preferred follow-up, to be honest. And the times that I've seen Dark try and make this opener work against Terran, it does seem like it doesn't work. And then he tries the follow-up all-in, which also doesn't work. But I give it a pass this time. I've been a little critical on Dark's insistence on this against people who are notoriously 2-raxers, because it just doesn't work. But to give Dark a pass in this series, he probably was hoping GuMiHo would not do this, because he didn't in the last game. So, it's fair. You try the all-in, it doesn't work, and you go into game 3, you know? What are you gonna do? But I really don't think this is gonna work. That bunker didn't last very long, but it didn't really have to. Number of bio units is approaching the number of which you could pounce on the Zerg army, but it's got to be very careful not to get surrounded and then hit by corrosive biles. That is a potential problem. However, in this case, working out pretty beautifully. Tanks get the siege up, and they will just blast away, and the remaining reinforcements. The body blocking of the bio is going to be good enough. Plus, there was that bunker also to fall back to. Dark decides now to try and go into drones. This isn't going to work out. Dark is one of the better Zerg players at making comebacks happen, so I'm not terribly surprised that he's attempting, I suppose. But GuMiHo, again, has really... The investment of the defense is nowhere near the investment of the attack. It's the best way to put it. GuMiHo mostly going along with his usual build order while also defending. Not really worried. The only thing he's missing are those medevacs, which are just popping now. So with those medevacs out, he can get to hippity-hopping around. Being the annoying Terran, we know that every Terran is in their hearts. And Dark is going to have speedlings and slow roaches to try and defend, which, yeah, they're probably better off trying to buy time. But GuMiHo, I like this. So he didn't just block with supply depot here like he could because he wanted his army to reinforce. So he puts the wall on the front so he could lower a supply depot. It's a tiny thing that I always forget to do, and then I get annoyed at myself for rebuilding a supply depot. Rusty Shacky, thank you for the prime sub. We got the attack underway. Dark is going to have to use his Ling run-by to go for a surround. It's the most effective engagement he could possibly have. It's really not all that bad. But any amount of army that he loses and then has to remake for a future engagement is further hammering his own economy. He had to stay at 45 drones just to hold there. And he didn't even entirely clean it up. Layers only now underway too, so definitely nowhere close to having Roach speed or Baneling speed or Fungals. But he is inherently closer to Fungals thanks to the Fungal change. Third CC now in location for GuMiHo as he is still ahead in the worker count to his Zerg opponent. Not a good sign. Upgrades non-existent for Dark as he emphasized army, then attempted to emphasize drones. Could only do it so much though. Now, there have been Terran players who have helped Dark come back in a game like this. They've moved out when they should stay at home and vice versa. That can absolutely still happen. But I do feel like generally Terran players have gotten better at making sure that Dark doesn't do the drone army shenanigans. Oh, that's more army than I expected. Oh, that was more macroing than I expected. They generally are pretty good about saying on the outskirts of the Zerg and testing the waters and then saying, okay, that's a lot of army. I just have to hold. Oh, that's not a lot of army. I could probably continue pushing. Seems like GuMiHo's doing a good job with that. Dark, no doubts, getting into Roach Ravager Infestor. It's the only thing that resembles a comeback composition for a Zerg player. Burrowed Banelings, I suppose, to a degree as well, but, you know, they don't have DTs, basically. They don't have DTs. They don't have going Super Saiyan with the drops. They have roaches and spells. Corrosive Bile and Fungals. And that's usually what Dark does. I'm not just making it up. This is usually Dark's intention. He's gotten to a level 65 drones. That's enough to work with for a period of time. He is getting into the infestors now, and his queens are in position to guard against this drop. Yep, he's not even going to try, but he doesn't really have to. He could just pair up the drop with the main army and win the game, I think. 30 army supply advantage for GuMiHo with the upgrade advantage and just the composition advantage. He doesn't even need the 3 medevacs. He wins the fight regardless. Cancel on the 4th base. Drop goes back into the main, and Dark does tap out. GG's. Heading into the rope match. In the bottom right of Site Delta, it is Dark. The top left, we have GuMiHo. I don't think I've played on this map yet. And I haven't cast on it yet, have I? Interesting. A decently large main base. Into the natural and low ground. Into the 3rd triangle, I guess. And the choke ramps. The middle is a little interesting. No Zelnagas, no gold base or root chest being geyser from what I can see. I don't know. Obviously a map that encourages a line of expansions towards each other, but then has these outlying bases that you could take. I guess maybe the 3rd base, 4th base, 5th base, something like that. I don't know, we'll see. GuMiHo's bench tied up 1-1 as Dark decided to go for a cheese that really needed to find a different opener, I think, just straight up. It needs to find a different opener, or it needs to find someone who's far more uncomfortable with the 2-racks opener, who just hasn't learned how to defend the cheeses with it, because if you know, you know, and you win against the cheese. Which is what happened. Dark was hoping that GuMiHo was going to 1-racks expand, as he is once again doing, so GuMiHo just basically got kind of lucky. One game he 2-racks opens is the one game that Dark did the roach cheese. If Dark had saved it for game number 3, GuMiHo's not doing any amount of scouting, he would have been surprised, and he would have taken damage. I think someone's making a joke in chat, but I guess as a general reminder, the patch is not out on Korea or Europe as of the time of this recording. So it wasn't out yesterday either when KSL happened. No, these guys are playing on North America Singapore server. So I don't know what their ping is to it. I imagine it's not too bad though. But even if it was, it's literally the only thing you could do. The test mod add-on you can give to custom games is, I think, old at this point, and apparently it was broken anyway. So that would usually be what would be done if there was open cups during a kind of like patch phase, is that they'd be testing it on a mod, but they never did that for reasons. So, and then the patch rolled out, and then it wasn't a very well thought out patch rollout. Yeah, it's a little awkward for the Koreans. And it will potentially be more awkward when it comes to Monday's open cups. No communication as to whether or not this will be fixed, much less when. So anyway, GuMiHo going for a 3cc 1-1-1, quite macro-oriented. Hellion opener as well, so one of the more typical TvZ, openers that we'll see. Dark is starting off with speed, but it's a question of whether or not he will insist on just pure speedling baneling. He did swap over into roaches in the first game, and rather effectively. GuMiHo took a very long time to realize exactly what was going on, and he did a pretty good job of handling the situation, even if it was a surprise. It just was already too far gone. Singapore, my favorite North American region. Exactly, alongside Brazil and Australia, you know. I made this joke on Twitter, but they not only chose 2023 to be the year in which to make mech work versus Protoss, which is a dumb idea and it's not working. They also apparently have chosen this year to make NA an important server. That'll also fail. Eventually. 3cc Hellbat Marauder all in? Well, there's no armory, so it's not Hellbats. Marauder Hellion opener harassments, I guess. No, the armory's coming down. That feels late. No, that definitely is late. Nah, I mean, well, you don't really see this build on 3cc, so I can't really say, oh no, I didn't kill the Ling. Well, the Ling already saw Marauders, and honestly, that's enough. Because really, Hellion Marauder at this stage of the game is almost always going to be that cheese. So, you know, someone probably could have killed the Ling. Well, the armory is coming in as the medevac flies over with 2 Marauders, not the third one. A lot of Hellions. GuMiHo, little supply blocks, only just barely. Armory does finish up. Dark has had plenty of time to try, well, not plenty of time, but he's had time to try and prepare against this. First and foremost, pulling your queen to the front lines, being that first line of Zerg defense. But roaches would be a lot more helpful, and he does have the roaches on the way. Not that many, though, as he's also supply blocked. The queen's trying their best to fight the horde here by their lonesome, but they can only do so much, and they're already so corralled as well. Forced to micro back to very limited areas, out of transfuses for the most part, too. Medevac still healing up here. More Hellbats on the way. Dark needs those roaches to pop. For the love of God, pop! Finally, a couple of them are, but the 10 that he needs are still in those eggs. Pop, damn you! The drones do manage to survive, but the queens are all dead. And the roaches that are popping from third base will be obliterated by the Hellbats and Marauders there. Dark may be building roaches too late to actually defend this attack, of which the timing was certainly odd. The 3cc version of this does not happen very often at all. Drones forced to come into the fight against Hellbats, never ideal. Kind of working to a degree. The third hatchery has gone down, and Dark has taken too much damage. Dark is now a 2-base Zerg against a 3cc Terran, in which they still have a medevac to fly around, 3 Marauders saved, 2 more to run back home to defend against a probable counterattack. Dark is up shit creek. Can't believe it worked. Hellbat attacks very rarely work, but Dark, man, the fact that he was only building 2 roaches at the beginning of the engagement was freaking terrible. He was so close to being in a very secure spot to defend against that. Because even though the Marauders help out a little bit against roaches, the overwhelming numbers of roaches that appear when they do build them, when they want to defend with them, usually beats back, the 2 Marauders that was initiated with. But it just was the timing. Timing was truly terrible. And now there's so many Marauders that they are kind of helpful against the roaches. No stim, no combat shields, no upgrades other than that Marauder slow, but Dark has so few units. And of course he has to counterattack. Of course he has to try and do this. And it's starting to do something. More Ravagers in play, that extra range coming in hot, the medevac out of juice, not able to heal up the Marauders anymore. SCVs must be pulled into the action, but Dark has to do them more than just kill a decent amount of SCVs. He has to kill a tremendous amount because he's so far behind on the hatcheries. He's building 3 hatcheries at once, his 3rd, 4th, and a 5th, as his mineral count is super high. All of his queens died, and he lost his 3rd production facility in the hatchery. So he's just banking a tremendous amount. He's going to be able to eventually bust out 30 drones, 20 roaches, whatever it is, as his larva finally pops. But it's a slow road, and at the very least, he needed to buy time, which he did. Not that GuMiHo was raring for a follow-up particularly quickly, not without stim. But, still, more time can be bought with Ling Run buys. Exactly what Dark's going to do. This is, again, a moment to remind everyone that Dark is one of the better comeback Zergs. And triple expanding, going for gold, if that actually manages to work, if GuMiHo cannot kill any one of these hatches, then Dark will eventually recover. He will get to Ravager, Infestor. It looks like he is going to be heading into mostly Ravager, Ling, Baneling, Infestor, because he's getting that +1 melee, so there's the Banelingness as well. GuMiHo is now initiating his counterattack. He's got stim, he's got more medevacs, he does not have combat shields, but does he even need it? Dark needs more units on the front lines. He's going to go for a swamp if the tank is on siege, and that might be good enough, but the 1-1 upgrades of the buyer are going to affect this battle as well. More reinforcements coming in too, and that might be enough for GuMiHo to send Dark back, and also a supply block as the Overlord dies. Now the 3rd base is once again under attack. The Marines do stim, and without those combat shields, they're in the orange and yellow, but are there enough reinforcements? Dark needs more roaches here to protect his Ravagers, forced to once again bring the queens in, so they're missing those injects, and Dark cannot spend all of his money. If he had 600 more minerals worth of army, this actually probably wouldn't even be that big of a problem. It looks like he will push that back, snipes one of the medevacs as well, loses 5 drones, and the main base is under attack, but the Marauders not able to kill the lair quickly enough. They do just manage to stop the mining by the looks of things. And GuMiHo's drops will continue to be effective. Big army coming to the middle of the map as well. Dark needs to be able to spend all of his money. The Baneling nest was sniped. That's what the Marauders did first and foremost. No Banelings involved for Dark, and he can hardly afford the Roach Ravager. He's so low on gas. He's so low on larva. And he's being split in so many different directions. 10 drones now dead. And Dark is going to have to give up his 4th base. Now, that's where the good news is. The 5th base is down, now becoming the 4th. So GuMiHo thinks that he's taken down a lot of the economy of Dark, when not really. Dark really only needs 4 bases, but obviously there are other problems. If GuMiHo sniped that 4th and went, job well done, time to go home, then Dark has time to recover, but GuMiHo really shouldn't be doing that. He still has his drop ongoing with 13 drone kills that's being added on, like 1 every 10 seconds, so we still have the timer, we still have the counter up. Finally, the medevac is killed. The army of Dark is kind of prepared up to that north side. The problem are the numbers. GuMiHo now also a +2 attack, and combat shields actually done, just has such superior fighting force. Dark never got to his Ling, Baneling, Ravager, Infestor composition. That's what he needed to actually hold on and defend, and GuMiHo did not let him get there. GG. GuMiHo will be moving on to the finals to face Hero in a best of 5.